Yo, yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is Mini Truckin Magazine 163, July 2005. Don't forget, OLP, we are your Mini Truckin headquarters. Stick with me to the end. I'm going to share a couple of facts that might blow your mind about how many Fords have been on the cover of Mini Truckin Magazine up until this point. This is Carl's PMA Motorsports Red Ranger. I think his last name is Arft. So I don't know the proper pronunciation of it. This was the 14th Negative Camber truck on the cover of Mini Truckin Magazine. Lance's 24th credited cover. He has one additional after this, so we'll get to that, of course. This was the fourth of 14 total covers with a cover truck that had intro wheels on it. So 14 total. This is number 4. So again, at the end, I'll share a little bit more details about this truck. Now, I don't know what year truck it is. I don't believe, we'll see. I don't believe if they shared that. So if you happen to know, let me know so I can fill that in with the database. Now, I last saw this truck, I think the one and only time was on November 6th of 2003. So 20 years ago, I took photos of it. We were walking around SEMA with Koolaid and Aaron Kaufman, believe it or not, at that time was hanging with us, and we had a dang good time. So with that being said, let's jump in. You have of course, custom wheel and tires for 05 is kind of the header banner. A Mazda insert shot, which we'll see the feature there. A pretty cool feature. And one thing that I will say about this truck that I like was just the subtle graphics. You know, if you've been following this and just the mini truck trends since the 90s, you'll know that like even some of those early cow concepts, like Bad to the Bone, you know, they had the graphics along the lower rocker panels. And it's kind of cool to see, like, red. I love this color. But then you have those subtle skull graphics there on the lower portion there, which is pretty awesome. If you like what we're doing here, check us out via any podcast app. Just search OLP. And as I said, remember, we are your Mini Truckin headquarters. We're going to continue to go through all 269 issues. Right now, we're on issue 163. As I mentioned, Lance's scrub line, he talks about what's wrong with people. I think there's a story, if I remember correctly, where he goes to a show and someone's inebriated, throwing glass bottles at traffic. You wonder why sometimes mini truckers get a bad rap. I know we've all done some stupid stuff, but some have done far stupider, if that's a word. Shane Thompson's 2000 GMC Jimmy from Bryan, Georgia. This thing, I've seen it at a ton of shows over the years, from Indiana with Camp and Drag, as well as just this year at Lone Star Throwdown. Super cool truck. It's changed a little bit. I think the seats are different now, or maybe the material is different, but certainly this thing, what stood out to me is how low it was. If you know these body style Blazers, you know, they kind of had a ginormous chassis underneath them, and this was cool to see featured. Super awesome truck. In this era, we didn't see as many two-door Blazers. Of course, the older school ones, the squares, are, you know, many of us love the two doors in those, but these, they didn't get as much love. But of course, we're seeing some here, which is good. Dope truck. The 29th annual resolutions. So, of course, this would have taken place in 04 December into January of 2005. So that gets a little confusing, but this would have been the 29th annual. I saw Bob Hayes just right before SEMA, and saw him at the Mini Truck Hall of Fame as well, which I'm a committee member, thankfully. And Bob did mention, I don't know how widely known it is, but he is bringing resolutions back for one last hurrah. So there's going to be more to come on that. I do believe he's going to potentially open up some of the archives as well, some of the older artwork. I know some of you guys that follow Bob Hayes pretty closely, that put this show on for so many years, know that he has, I think in the past, opened the archives, but I do believe he's going to do that one last time. He's triple OG, been doing it a long time, and you know, when you're an OG, you can kind of do what you want to do. So we'll see what Bob has in store. When making a billet wheel from concept to reality, and this is basically a tech article, which is pretty cool, you know, for that time, to kind of show the process A lot of work goes into it. Big Easy Motorfest. Here's the super clean Isuzu. Always loved that thing. It's still around if I remember correctly. And some good show coverage. If you guys stick with us to the end of these videos, it certainly helps the channel. I am, as you can kind of tell, trying to make these as efficient as possible, but also getting kind of all of the main core content there. Now, this truck was, it is also the centerfold. So Carl's truck, you know what? And I stand corrected. It's a 2002. I don't know why I missed that. 02 Ford Ranger. This was a Michigan build, and you can see club affiliation there is Negative Camber rearranged. So kind of a cool name there. And certainly in the era of a ton of graphics, again, I think what stands out is the bold color of this, just that red. And the skulls to me always looked really, really good. So I think this is the type of truck that, don't know if it's still around. I don't know if this was ever parted out or what happened. Some of you may be able to chime in. I know Airlift was a partner, if you will. You can see the logo right here. I don't recall if it was in the Airlift booth or which booth it was in at SEMA 03, but certainly it's 6 months to fame. So, you know, this was kind of one of those builds, basically a brand new truck. You know, again, that's not a new concept to take a brand new truck and build it. The thing that stood out to me as well, of course, the bed was, you know, everything was, there was no bed floor, I guess is the best way to put it. But it did have the wheel tubs you can see there. And those tubular control arms, the aluminum gas tank, and PMA on the steering wheel. Of course, you've got that, that was a famous thing in that era. It still kind of is, but in that era to have a center console like that was fiberglass and that went between the seats, especially in a regular cab truck. You can see here all of the work. You've got the PMA logo back there. Certainly a full-blown show truck, something that easily could, if this thing hit a show today, it would easily hold its own, if that makes sense. But we'll see another photo of it here, which I think I'm going to include as part of the thumbnail because it was the centerfold. Now, for those scoring at home, we're on page 44 is where this starts. And as you can imagine, this is not where the centerfold is at. So that's the key thing. The centerfold, if you think of that term, is boom right here. That was so you could bend those potentially and just kind of take those right out and bend them back. Sure, many of us did that, or you could just yank it out, however you want to do it. But this was a good photo here showing inside the bed. You know, there's different folks out there. Some, I've kind of liked the bed floor, but I think this truck pulls it off, with showing all of the tubular work. You can also see here, looks like stainless lines. That was, not going to say that was the only truck. There were trucks out there that had stainless lines, hard lines in that era, but not as many. Certainly there's definitely more now with the way things have evolved, but super clean truck. Rearranged. Tip of the cap to Carl and his dad. I know, don't know a lot about PMA Motorsports, but I know his father was mentioned there in the table of contents. Here is Jerry Taylor's 95 Nissan hardbody King Cab, not extended cab, Mike. So that's a King Cab. You can kind of see Dustin Haven in terms of, a little bit of his maybe influence there with the zebra print, which carried over from Suicidal Toy. Just, saying the resemblances of things and how things kind of, you may have seen stuff in magazines going, oh, that was pretty cool. I'm going to run that. That's just the way things work. So kind of cool there, something a little bit different. Here is IBDRGN, so IB Dragon. This was Bradley Krasucki from Texas, 86 Mazda B2200. Super cool thing, super cool truck. Thing I like about it is you've got kind of a different perspective here, right? So you've got that low front three-quarter shot, full page there, boom, rear three-quarter shot, and then you've got your interiors. And again, look at those exotic prints. It's kind of a thing during that era, even tip of the cap to Tom Bennett, the big homie. Down south, Cheetah Blazer, some of those influences, if you will, or and then what they were able to do, the art department, you've got the carryover as we've continued to see things get better and better in terms of technology and whatnot. Kind of cool here. Again, you've got the tweed, but you've got that spider web deal. Kind of cool, something a little bit different. Easily set maybe your little cover on top of that. You've got the Frenched in, kind of crazy license plate there, really tilted on the front. And you can see there the custom interior. Maybe not everyone's cup of tea, but certainly they themed it out into the graphics, which was kind of cool. And we're talking, this is almost 20 years ago. So, you know, those were some of the styles, and that's why we go back through these. Here you have Jbug is the owner's name, and this was Orlando, Florida. I'm trying to remember if I know this truck. I want to say I do, but without seeing the name, you can kind of see some of the names here. Tony Rispoli was involved. Some are older school names here from kind of the Florida truck scene, but pretty cool. These things always to me look great. I love them laid out, shaved like the back end is there with the body line going all the way around. Of course, it looks great with the Cali combo is what I'm trying to say. And also, you've got the sliding rag top. Really is kind of perfection. Here we go again, dragging through Mike Alexander again, some of his early work in terms of being on staff. And this was that crazy build that eventually goes on. Something very different in the concept of mini trucks at that time was running this like crazy chassis where, you know, it was going to be raised in the middle of the truck, more of almost like racing type themed. Again, people were really pushing the limits in this era, trying to do something kind of bigger and better. Rollers and rubbers. I won't spend a lot of time here. You can always pause this if you need to. Again, all of this is in 4K if you wanted to kind of reference something. But certainly, this was good filler for the magazine, but it was also a good way to show some love to some of maybe the sponsors and things like that. Certainly, if you were looking for wheels, that was the way that you would go about seeing the new stuff. And, of course, you had the catalogs and some of the websites that were kind of developing 20 years ago to let you pick some of the wheels, and that was kind of a thing. Now you can pretty much just get a rendering done. Super clean truck there. Tilt bed back in the day. You can see there on the front. And low S10. Pretty cool. This was back to school madness. I like the lettering there on the madness. We're starting to get to all color. If I remember correctly, we're still not there. And, you know, here's black and white. You know, obviously that's a page that doesn't necessarily need to be color. We still have that same, I think it may have changed. I'll have to go back and look. But it looks like it's the same, but I think it did change. That photo that I told you guys ran in so many issues. Probably that photo ran in more issues than any other photo, as I've said. Shout out to Shannon Bolas. There's a lot of good kinfolk in here. And this is, the Bash is back. The legendary Booger Bash returns. That truck run, if you will, truck show, was up for Mini Truck Hall of Fame a few years ago, and I know a lot of people in that region really feel that easily could get in. So I think that, in my opinion, needs to be revisited at some point. A lot of epic stories and epic years, if you will, from that show. So we'll have to kind of see what happens there. A lot more to come on the Mini Truck Hall of Fame, so keep it tuned to OLP. You can see here the ad index. I don't think they did this in every issue, but this certainly would make things easy if you were just looking to flip real quick to, you know, AW or AVS or one of these other advertisers, find them real quick to get their number. Now it's a totally different game. Of course, you just Google and program the phone number, or Google every single time like me when you need something. Here you see John O'Neill in the middle. You've got this photo always tripped me out. Travis Nowak. I used to look at that going, now wait, what's going on here? Obviously a little Photoshop magic, but Travis always loves these squares, especially that was his Blazer, I think, at the time. And shout out to Travis. He's been on OLP. This truck was born and built in Florida. Shout out to Tim and Todd from NC Florida. Matt Torgerson tie in on that one as well. Here you got Lance sitting on a golf cart. Let's not forget the big homie, Koolaid. We see you, homie. I used to send some of these to him as far as images, and he's like, man, I need to get that issue. This is when he was on his run. Can our brother get some Koolaid? He's still out there doing the damn thing. And ironically enough, which I'm going to cover now, the crazy thing was when I went to SEMA 2003, this is one of the photos. So I pulled this up right before I started. You can see there in the lower right, the time at that era, you could pick a date, how you wanted to display. And this was my father, rest in peace, his digital camera, which wasn't many megapixels, which is kind of crazy. Is there anything you see in this image? Well, we obviously see the cover truck we're talking about. Again, it was a brand new truck for the most part in 02, which now I realize is an 02. Could have been bought at the end of 02, and then boom, it's built, and then it's at SEMA here in November of 03. But right here is Aaron Kaufman. Again, we were walking around, even with a video camera. I have some video footage of this as well. And, you know, in the early days of those DV tapes, you know, digital video, however they spun that. But there's even a quick clip that I have when we're kind of just floating around. It might be from the same day if Aaron had that same shirt on and he, you know, shows some love to Severed. Since, you know, I was in Severed and some of the other guys were petitioning and stuff. So it was good times. But there is an image, a memory, if you will, from that day when I saw this truck. Now, I may have went by a couple times that week, but from this photo and from the couple other photos, I do not remember what booth it was in. You can see there as I'm scrolling through. You can see here on the back window, too, in memory of Mark Brinker. Brinker, 82 to 02, rest in peace. And according to the time, it was 6:28 when I took the 6:29, 6:30. I don't know if the time was set correctly, but here's the other cool thing. This truck, and I think I forgot to mention this, if I remember correctly, it is in, because I posted this not too long ago, that street truck's right there that's sitting in the driver's seat, this truck is also featured in it. So it was super cool that although and we would see this sometimes, although it was featured, Mini Truckin' wasn't scared to go, hey, let's put it on a cover of Mini Truckin', right? So in that era, a lot of people were like, oh, you know, people have already seen the truck, you know, it's going to hurt our sales. And it's like, look, if you love Mini Truckin' and you had a subscription and you were a faithful reader, you weren't going to be like, hey, I just saw that feature, I'm not going to buy this issue. It's like, come on, the photos are different, the write-up is different, the details are different, you know, the write-up, whatever you want to spin it as. So that's a little behind the scenes there, a couple photos, and that was November 6, 2003. At about 6:30 West Coast time. So yeah, there you go. So if I remember correctly, again, it was in that issue. The other ironic thing is that is Wendy Elder. I think Craig Elder's wife. That is her H2. And this year at SEMA, I haven't ever posted this, but they had 3 vehicles there, if I remember correctly. He had the red F-350 Skyd that had the So Bad plate on it. I think she had, if I remember correctly, looking back at my VHS, she had the H2 there that was lifted. And he had, I think, another Hummer. I'm trying to remember what else. But I'm pretty certain when I went back through the video recently, I was like, damn, they had 3 vehicles at SEMA. A lot of people were trying to get 1 there, and they had 3. It just kind of shows the impact that Craig and those guys, you know, his awesome kinfolk and the people, especially his wife, they were super dedicated to this stuff. But yeah, there's Aaron Kaufman, a younger Aaron Kaufman right there with no beard back in the day. A little bit of history for you guys. I've been doing this a long time and I love it. So leave a comment if you can, even if it's an emoji. If there's anything I missed, please comment below. I appreciate you all. Take care, everyone. And stay on the rise. Rest in peace, Danny D. Peace.